Most people who call 911 are hoping for help. But sometimes, the call captures the exact moment something terrible happens. In one recording, a woman suddenly begins screaming after realizing someone is inside her home. In another, a kidnapped woman calls police after being held captive for 10 years. And in one of the most chilling calls ever recorded, a man calmly confesses that he just killed his entire family. These are 5 real 911 calls that investigators say they will never forget. You are watching Dark Casebook. On May 6th, 2013, a frantic 911 call came from a quiet neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio. The woman on the phone sounded panicked, almost breathless. Her name was Amanda Berry, and she had just escaped from a house where she had been held captive for nearly 10 years. Through heavy breathing and panic, she told the dispatchers something shocking. "I've been kidnapped, and I've been missing for 10 years. At first, the operator sounded confused. But then Amanda gave her name. She was the same Amanda Berry who had disappeared in 2003 when she was only 16 years old. For nearly a decade, her case had been one of Cleveland's most heartbreaking mysteries. But now, she was alive. Amanda explained that she had finally managed to escape the house where she had been imprisoned. She ran to a neighbor for help and used their phone to call 911. Her voice shook as she begged the dispatcher to send police immediately. "Please hurry, he's still here." When officers arrived, they discovered something even more disturbing. Inside the house were 2 other women who had also been missing for years: Gina DeJesus and Michelle Knight. All 3 women had been held captive by a man named Ariel Castro. What started as a desperate 911 call quickly became one of the most shocking rescue stories in modern criminal history. But while Amanda Berry's call ended in a rescue, the next call captured something much darker. On January 28, 1978, a woman named Ruth Price dialed 911 from her home in Ohio. At first, the conversation sounded normal, but within seconds, the tone of the call changed. Ruth told the dispatcher that there was a strange man outside her house. The operator asked if he was trying to break in. Ruth paused. Then she quietly said something terrifying. She believed the man had already entered the house. The dispatcher immediately told her to stay on the line. For a moment, everything went silent. Then suddenly, Ruth began screaming. A loud, terrified scream echoed through the phone line. The dispatcher repeatedly called her name. But Ruth never answered again. Police rushed to her home, but when they arrived, Ruth Price was gone. Days later, her body was discovered miles away. The recording captured the exact moment she realized she wasn't alone in her home. And it remains one of the most chilling 911 calls ever recorded. But sometimes the most heartbreaking emergency calls come from children. One night, a young boy dialed 911 after waking up to something terrifying. His voice was quiet and trembling. The dispatcher gently asked him what was wrong. The boy whispered that his mother wasn't moving. The operator carefully asked if she was breathing. There was a long pause. Then the child quietly said, "I don't think so." Trying to keep him calm, the dispatcher asked him where he was in the house and told him to stay on the phone. The boy slowly described what he was seeing around him. His mother was lying on the floor, and it looked like something violent had happened inside the house. The dispatcher continued speaking softly, doing everything possible to comfort the child until police arrived. When officers reached the scene, they discovered that the boy's mother had been the victim of a brutal crime. Investigators later said the child's call helped them understand what had happened. But the recording remains heartbreaking, because throughout the call, you can hear the confusion and fear in the child's voice. But the next 911 call is disturbing for a completely different reason. One evening in Texas, a 911 dispatcher answered a call from a man who sounded strangely calm. The operator asked him what the emergency was. There was a brief pause. Then the man said something chilling. He calmly stated that he had just shot his entire family. The dispatcher tried to remain composed while asking if anyone inside the house was still alive. The man answered slowly. He believed everyone was dead. Police rushed to the location while the dispatcher continued speaking to him. When officers arrived, they discovered a devastating crime scene exactly as the man had described. What disturbed investigators the most was the caller's voice. He showed almost no emotion, just a calm confession to a horrific crime. But the final call on this list remains one of the most mysterious. Late one night in Florida, a 911 dispatcher received a strange call from a young woman named Jennifer Moore. Her voice was barely above a whisper. She sounded terrified. The operator asked what the emergency was. Jennifer hesitated before quietly saying she believed someone was inside her house. The dispatcher asked if she could see the person. Jennifer whispered that she could hear footsteps moving through the home. The operator told her to hide and stay on the line until police arrived. For a moment, everything went quiet. Then suddenly, a loud noise echoed through the phone. Jennifer gasped. Her breathing became frantic. The dispatcher repeatedly called her name, but Jennifer never responded. The call ended. Police rushed to the address she had given, but when officers arrived, they found no sign of forced entry, and Jennifer Moore was gone. To this day, what happened that night remains a mystery.